every chain will break as broken hearts declare His praise. For who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles, and every knee will bow before Him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before Him. So open up the gates, make way before the King of Kings. Our God who calls and saves is here to set the captives free. For who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles, and every knee will bow before Him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before Him. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? 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 Oh, who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles, and every knee will bow before Him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before Him. Praise His name this morning. From our homes, from across the community, let's praise Him today. Let Him hear your voice.
Let's praise him this morning. Welcome.
I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I met you. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my tomb till I met you. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Now your mercy, now your mercy has saved my soul. Now your freedom is all that I know. The old maid knew Jesus when I met you. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. This is our story this morning. I needed rescue, my sin was heavy, but chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan, now you call me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing, now your love is the air that I am breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open, 'cause when you called my name, oh, I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day.
morning and welcome to the Rivers online worship experience. My name is Dean Ward and I serve as the lead pastor of the River Church in New Kensington, and I am so grateful that you are here with us today. Now, you may be listening to my voice this morning wondering, why is it so raspy? What am I missing? Well, I have been quite under the weather for Thanksgiving, and I'm grateful we're filming this Friday morning, and I feel human for the first time in about 3 days. So hopefully, in person on Sunday morning, my voice will be back to normal. But this morning, you're just going to have to suffer along with all of us. Hey, I want to invite you to take a minute and share this on whatever social media platform you are enjoying it. We stream this live at 8 a.m. every Sunday morning in an interactive format. We stream it live. That's kind of an oxymoron. But we stream it in an interactive format where I'm on there. And this week we had 19 other people on there with us and had a great time together. And so I want to invite you to go on Facebook at 8 a.m. Sunday mornings and join in with us, because we can interact, we can text each other, we can message each other, share prayer requests, and make funny comments and observations about the sermon and all that kind of stuff, and would love to invite you to join us at 8 a.m. Sunday mornings on Facebook. Go to the River New Ken Facebook or my personal Facebook and join in with us in that setting if you'd like to join in with us live. So, we are wrapping up our series of messages today, just simply called Stuff Jesus Made Up, Epic Stories from the Master. And this is the second time we've done this series with all new stories, so it's called 2.0. And we're looking at these parables that Jesus told, these stories that he told. And today's story is known as one of the most epic stories that Jesus ever told. And, you know, there's really two that are just very well known, the Good Samaritan and this one, the prodigal son. But today we're looking at the prodigal son more as just one son that ran away, but we're looking at how it's a story about runaways, about those who even stayed home and ran away. So let's read the passage together that is found in Luke chapter 15, beginning at verse 11 all the way through 32. So we're going to be reading quite a bit. So let's jump right in. Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living." Now that's quite a mouthful, isn't it? Squandered his wealth in wild living. One can only imagine what might have been taking place in that young man's life as he squandered his wealth in wild living. Verse 14, after he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in the whole country, and he began to be in need. Most likely the first time he was ever in need his entire life. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. Now listen to how in need he was. You ready for this? The food he was giving the pigs began to look appealing to him. It says in verse 16, he longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare? And here I am starving to death. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. So he got up and went to his father, but while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father didn't even respond to what the son said. He said to his servants, Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Bring a ring, put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is now alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. This didn't go over too well with the older brother, though. We feel like the story kind of has its climactic moment when the father greets the son and welcomes the son back home. And yet we see kind of almost mentioned as an epilogue some very important information that I don't want us to miss. And so let's process through the older brother and how all of this lands on him and why it lands on him the way it does. Verse 25. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. Your brother has come home, he replied, and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound. Now, one would hope that the older brother would be ecstatic at this news, that his younger brother had returned home and that he was in fact alive and safe. But verse 28 reveals a different reaction. The older brother became angry and refused to go in. He wouldn't go into the party. And so guess what the father did? We see the father always moving toward his sons. It says, so his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Now, I find it an interesting perspective to see how the older brother viewed his relationship with his father. I've been slaving for you, and I've never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But then this son of yours who has squandered your property with prostitutes comes home. You kill the fattened calf for him. Now, let's see the father's perspective on all this. Verse 31. My son, the father said, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad, because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. Now, I love this story. And that phrase, he was lost and is now found. Many of you may be looking at the background of what we're filming in front of. We are filming today at the Tri-City Historical Society on Fifth Avenue in downtown New Kensington. And if you've been at the River Church for any length of time, perhaps the phone booth and the stretcher holder look familiar to you. If you remember in 2007, yes, we're going way back, I preached an entire sermon while sitting in this phone booth. I was talking about dead-end relationships, and I got in the phone booth, shut the door, and preached the whole sermon sitting in the phone booth. Yeah, that was one of the sermon props people weren't very crazy about. And then this vintage emergency stretcher was hanging in the hallway at the River Church, and we were going to paint and redesign the children's ministry area, and it didn't quite go with the children's ministry theme. So we took it and the phone booth down to the hospital building, and the hospital has now donated them both to the Tri-City Historical Society. So it was like seeing an old friend when we came, and it was almost like it was lost, but now it's found. You know, this story has a tragic tone to it. Tragedy is kind of the backdrop. You see dysfunctional family dynamics at work. Oh, did I hit a nerve? Maybe you've been around some family over Thanksgiving that you're not usually around. I'm not speaking of my brother and sister and their families. They were in town this week, and we had a delightful time, sick as I was. But tragedy does not have the last word here. Or does it? Jesus leaves this story hanging. When you read the end of this story, you see the older son out with the father pleading with the older son to come into the party, and then the story ends. Kind of like when you're done binging a season of a show you're watching, and then you're like, will they have another season again? This story kind of leaves you hanging for interpretation that, yes, there is another season coming. And we can only imagine what that season might have looked like, how this story might have unwound and been told and played itself out. But this story is not just about the runaway who left. This story is about the runaway who stayed home. Because they both wanted their father's things, but not really the father. They both wanted all that the father had to give to them in the form of possessions and wealth, but they didn't really want all the father had to give to them when it came to love and grace and mercy and acceptance. The stubbornness of the two sons is met by the father's persistent, pursuing love. Perhaps you've heard this well-known story that kind of outlines the risk of stubbornness. Sometimes stubbornness is viewed as a quality to be embraced, and indeed that is. But then sometimes stubbornness is viewed and is in fact a quality that puts yourself at risk. And this story illustrates that. Plowing at night through rough, foggy seas, a battleship's radar suddenly indicates an object directly in its path. The ship's captain sends a radio signal. We are on a collision course. Advise you to change course 10 degrees north. A response crackles over the radio. Negative. We advise you to change course 10 degrees south. The captain can now see a blinking light from the approaching object. Perturbed, he bellows a reply. I'm a ship's captain. Change course 10 degrees north now. I am a seaman, second class, comes the reply. Advise that you change course 10 degrees south to avoid imminent collision. The captain is furious. He blurts out another command. This is a battleship. Change your course immediately. Back comes the calm reply. This is a lighthouse. I hope that stubbornness doesn't damage your life as it seems to even both of these brothers. And it's interesting to note as we look at this story how desperation can put us on the right path. And obedience, though, with self-righteousness, can put us on the wrong path. What makes the difference? How we respond to love and mercy. Love and mercy can make us forever grateful. But absence of love and mercy can make us a fool. I want to invite you to pause with me now and enjoy this video, which is just kind of a modern telling of the prodigal son, just simply called Homecoming.
My feet stub the end of this road, swollen in the heat of my failings. My fingers bleed from shattered dreams. My throat falters. My stomach churns on endless regrets and words rehearsed to beg my way back in. I try to grab for a sense of worth, but the air is thin. Up ahead a figure stands, and I know that I must face him. My shoulders drop, but his are lower, slumped in the weight of a child lost. His chest heaves in love's deep pain. His eyes reach to mine. Arms rise like dawn-lit wings, and now he's running, his face a song. He falls upon me, washing the squandered years in tears and kisses. He pulls me close, those walls I built, so sure, so certain within, collapse now like petals to the touch of his embrace. His words pour like summer rain, weeping those names I've so desperately sought. My child, my pleasure, my springtime bloom, my ever after returned. He holds the bruises like tender flames, holds the sorrow, holds my mistakes, takes the heartbreak, the burning shame, and draws me home.
I hope you enjoyed that video. I found this quote of the story of the prodigal son that Leslie Weatherhead made, and I love the way it is stated, and I want to share it with you now. It says, the story is of a loving father who had two boys, one of whom walled himself off from the father's love by doing evil, while the other walled himself off from the same love by doing good. Both were prodigals, for they were estranged from their father, and the love relationship between them and him was broken. They did not love their father, and they were not capable of loving each other. You see, the older brother, he viewed the father as a boss to be obeyed, while the younger brother viewed his father as a bank to be drawn from. They both missed that he was the father to be loved. and they were to love whom the Father loved. Now, I don't know if you would view yourself maybe more similar to the older brother who was indignant at his younger brother's actions and behavior, or if you identify more with the younger brother and the wild living that he went on. But when I look at the church today, I'm concerned that we do not love whom the Father loved. I love the way Jesus reminds us of the importance of this in Matthew chapter 9, verses 10 through 13. When Matthew begins to follow Jesus and then throws a party and invites all of his scoundrel friends to meet Jesus, who was just beginning to change his life. Verse 10 says, while Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners came and ate with him and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners? Like, how dare he? On hearing this, Jesus said, it is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners. Because the Pharisees, they were really good at sacrifice. They weren't so good at mercy. And Jesus is calling them out, saying, I wish that you were as good at mercy as you were with sacrifice. And we see the older brother here being not so good with mercy either. He was real good with sacrifice. He felt like he had sacrificed his whole life obeying his father's commands, slaving for his father. And yet he wasn't very good at mercy at all. The title of this message, I don't know if I gave it to you at the beginning, but it's just a story about runaways. And there are three main characters in this story. And I have a message to the ones who ran away. The one character that gets most of the attention is the one who ran away. And to the ones of us who ran away, I want to let you know, the Father calls us out of the coldness and isolation of sin, selfishness, and shame. This is where self-centeredness steals away joy. And the Father calls us home. He lets us know we're not going to find joy. We're not going to find life. We're not going to find all that he has for us living selfish, self-centered lives, going against his best plans for us. And he's calling us home. And he wants us to live with joy and life in all of its fullness. The second character in the story is the older brother who stayed home. And this is a message for those of us who have stayed home, who feel like we have lived the right way, who we have gotten sacrifice right. And yet we notice we are without joy as well. This is a message for those who stayed home. The Father invites us to come in from the coldness and isolation of duty, obligation, and superiority, thinking that we are better than because we have obeyed. This is where self-righteousness steals the joy that Christ came to give us. This is where self-righteousness steals the life that Jesus has for us. And the final character in the story is the Father. And this is a message from the Father of all of us. First of all, he calls us, come home. Come home. What awaits you is healing, restoration, redemption, joy, and life. The second message is come in. Come in from the outside. You are missing the party. What awaits you is healing, love, grace, mercy, and joy. And may all of us learn to love the Father. He has a heart for us that has our best interest at heart. He wants the best for us. And may we learn mercy and grace. And may we experience life and joy as we come in and come home. God bless you, everybody. I hope you've had a great Thanksgiving and a great week ahead. God bless.